Okay, so it's a central nervous system condition.
Yes, definitely. Whereas before it'd been looked at as solely a pelvis, but you can't. There's a lot of nerves in the pelvic area that come from different parts of the body. There's a nerve, for instance, called the vagal nerve. So I've spoken to people. I study sexual health, so please forgive me if I talk in a way that you're wondering how does she know this stuff. But I've had to learn a lot. But the vagal nerve, and you meet people that are having sex with their partner, and the sex becomes intense or vigorous, and the woman passes out. That's because the vagal nerve has been stimulated and overstimulated, knocks them out just for a minute, they faint. So the nerve for the pelvis is just not situated in the pelvis alone. It has to lead to your brain. And that's what we're trying to change the thinking, because a lot of doctors only look at sexual health in terms of reproduction and sexually transmitted diseases. They don't mention someone's sexual health. It's okay for a man to go to the doctor and say, I'm having great difficulty in getting an erection. There's a pill you can give him. There's also now a pill, to help women who have low sexual arousal. They were at the conference that I was there, Fliberanson I think it's called, and that will help them with their sexual arousal. I don't have that issue. Mine is on the other spectrum. So it's about taming that down. So there are lots of natural ways of doing that. I'm learning them. And I don't think that I'm one of the first women who's ever had this. I think it's been in the centuries. It's just never been spoken about. I think I'm one of the few people that are willing to speak about it.
And you spoke out about it on what was the name of the blog that you wrote about the SAR?
I spoke actually for the Sun newspaper.
The Sun newspaper.
Yeah, and that was really a rough experience, because that was pretty much like going into
New Jersey paper, or
the Sun newspaper is a United Kingdom rag. It's worse than the Inquirer. You know, I was willing to go into that arena, and it's read by a huge amount of people. I think I got paid something like £250, which is about $400, but it was very damaging in terms of my social, professional
Did you expect
reputation.
that, or did you know that?
Got blindsided completely. It was like someone saying, oh, knock this door, and you knock the door and someone goes woof, just punches you in your face. And the ramifications of that was very challenging.
Yeah.
So since then I've written I did Marie Claire, South Africa, and then I did this show in Los Angeles for a man called Jeff Probst. Jeff Probst, I think I'm saying his name right, but he's the director of this program called Survivor.
Survivor, okay.
And he was willing to have an open conversation to some extent. The general public does not talk about genitals. The culture that we live in doesn't allow us to talk about sexuality. So there's not that many arenas where a person can be truly honest. And then, you have religions that tell you to shut up, that this is not what women talk about. And we have a patriarchal society that men don't want women talking about that. Anyway, shut your mouth and keep it moving. So there's all these different barriers, and I still try to talk about it, but I talk about it in a way that's educational. There's a documentary being filmed about this, and hopefully I can say hi to Ileana, Judy, and oh my goodness, Vanessa. Ileana, Judy, and Vanessa, they're in Los Angeles, and they're hoping to compile a documentary that gathers enough information to look at the activist component of getting PGAD as a recognized, treatable, and treatable in terms of you're never going to get rid of it because it's a chronic disorder, but to the point where your symptoms are manageable so that you can have a quality of life and that you can work. I'm not looking to get disability. I want to work. I want to contribute to my community. I didn't come to America to pussyfoot. I came to America to work. Could have worked in London too. I worked in England as well. Whatever country I go to, I'm going to contribute to the community that I live in. So I have this, and initially I was like, oh my God, what the hell? What can I do? But now I'm like at that age and stage where I want to help other people. So, you know, if you're a woman and you're walking down the street and you suddenly feel like, wow, I was minding my own business, I'm aroused, or, you know, you're taking care of your children, you're bathing your child, or you're driving and picking up your kid from school and you're aroused and it's not in the usual form, or you have an orgasm that's outside of intimate activity, you need to consider that.
Do a lot of women experience orgasms from your understanding or research, if you've done any? Do a lot of women have orgasms, you know, without necessarily being without necessarily being under the PGAD label? What's the average that women will have those kind of activities? That
experience is, you know, I think the typical from the, and I'm trying to answer this in a way that's not specific because it's such a broad question. Typically, the sex therapists that I work with, or that I have, you know, I'm in an online server group, and I'm a member of the American Association of Sex Educators, Counselors and Therapists. Typically, a large quantity of women have great difficulty in experiencing orgasm. So the thought process is towards helping somebody get one. So because getting an orgasm is traditionally and normally pleasurable, when someone like me comes along, we dismiss and discredit and deconstruct the notion that an orgasm is always 100% pleasurable. For me, it is not. I've had a large quantity of them, so I can tell you that of 100, maybe 2 or 3 might actually register with pleasure. Do they satiate? Not always. So it becomes a very challenging thing when you're in a relationship, because you can't actually...
So does this start off as a gradual thing, or does it just explode? Like the first time this happened to you, what was the if you could approximate, what was the count of arousals that you had?
Before, I mean, I was in an intimate situation. The first time it happened to me, I was in an intimate situation with somebody that I trusted, and we were having a sexual intercourse, which was like, okay, there's nothing unusual about that. What was unusual was I felt the sensations afterwards. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it was a normal situation up until the sex ended for the man, and then I thought, well, I'm still having these sensations. So the arousal portion never came about until after that particular episode had ended. And then I started to notice things like, okay, I'm driving my car and I'm feeling aroused. I'm sat on a train, I'm feeling aroused. I am walking through Bloomingdale's, I'm feeling aroused. I drank a glass of wine, I'm feeling aroused. So then I started to say, well, something's not right here. Why do I always have this sensation? And then what happens is you tend to isolate because you're nervous of being around people in that state.
And how long did that last for that first time?
I think within maybe a month of that happening, I said, you know, maybe I'm just being super sensitive.
Like a month after having that sexual experience?
Yeah, I started to pay close attention, because I went into like a state of celibacy. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. Something's wrong. Maybe my body just needs time to just realign itself. I'm a great believer in giving yourself space.
Okay.
So I gave myself space, but then I noticed, you know, you start to think, well, is it because I'm not having sex? But then it just became too odd. It was like, is this an odd thing for it to happen? And I noticed when I got extremely angry, like enraged, which is not that hard when you work in an emergency room, because your co-workers alone will kill you, but it's just like, they're just irritating some days, but I love them all. But that, you know, get into that extreme state, and I'd be tense all the time. So that's when I started to say, well, you know, let me try other things. Let me try go for massage. I've never orgasmed on a table when I've been massaged, ever.
Never.
Because I've just been that relaxed. And I think it's this extreme state of being tense and then being relaxed that I move too quickly from one to one. Yeah, it's too extreme. So that's when I noticed.